Algebra. Why is that showing? I don't want ads to Hot Topic. We'll move that down. There we go. Hello and good day, Algebra. We are going over CO2, which is estimating the root of a non-perfect square. More of a number sense objective than anything else. We've talked about perfect squares before, non-perfect squares. We talked about them with rational and irrational numbers. Today, we're going to take a little bit deeper because as you go into geometry next year especially, you'll be using roots fairly commonly. So let's start by the definition. What is a root? Or what's an example of a root? I should say, unless Hot Topic wants to sponsor the video in the channel, then I'll keep the ads up there. I just want that officially on the record for that, if someone's watching. What is the example of a root? Yeah. In what sense? Sure, okay. So if I asked you to find the root of 36, the root of 36 equals 6. Why? Because 6 times itself is 36. Okay? So a root is a number multiplied by itself. Okay? A number multiplied by itself. The root of 49 is 7. The root of 64 is 8. And we also know that a root, Nolan, do you remember the order of operations?
Kind of.
Do you remember what the R stands for?
Rational. Wait.
No. Anthony?
Oh, what? Oh, radicals.
Radicals, right? And then the letter that is opposite the R, the E, stands for exponents, right? A root is the opposite of an exponent. Right? The root is the opposite of a power, the opposite of an exponent. It kind of goes in line with explaining why the root of 36 is 6, because 6 squared is 36. The root of 9 is 3, because 3 squared equals 9. A perfect square is a number with integer roots. And those roots, because they are integers, are also rational. Right? We talked about every integer is also a rational number. And so a perfect square, such as 36, because its root is 6, which is an integer, rational, 36 is a perfect square. A non-perfect square would be a number with irrational roots. Roots that have decimals that never end. Give me an example of a non-perfect square. If you have to flip back to the previous page, there are several. Yeah. Root of 8 is a non-perfect square, right? Nothing times itself, no integer times itself is going to equal 8. Another example.
6.
6, root of 6, right? No integer times itself is going to equal 6. 12. 2. 21, right? There are a lot of them, okay? And so what we're going to focus on today is if I give you a non-perfect square and ask you to take the root of it, you'd be able to estimate that, right? So this section on the test, there will be no calculator because I don't want you just to type in root 8 into your calculator and copy down the decimal. That's no knowledge on your part. You know how to estimate that, okay? So this box here, which since it's under the wise old owl, can be put on a help sheet. So no calculator, but you can use this. This will tell us what the perfect squares are, and we're going to use those as benchmarks to estimate the non-perfect squares. Okay? So, for starters, the root of 1. 1 is a perfect square. What is the root of 1? What times itself is 1? 1. Great start. 4 is the next perfect square. What times itself is 4? 2. Okay, the root of 4 is 2. Next perfect square is 9. Its root is 3. Then comes 16. The root of 16 is 4. Make sure we're jotting these down. This can go on a help sheet for the test. What comes after 16?
25.
25. The root of 25 is 5. Then comes, anybody?
36.
36. The root of 36 is 6. Then 49. The root of 49 is 7. 64. The root of 64 is 8. 81. The root of 81 is 9. 100. 10 times 10 is 100. Now let's start to get difficult.
121.
Yes. 11 squared is 121. 144. The root of that is 12. This is a highway that many of you probably take to get here in the morning or in the afternoon. 169. That is 13 times 13. Then 196. The root of that is 14. And then lastly, 15 squared, 225. Good job. Okay. So at the very least, you'll have the perfect squares at your disposal for the test. Again, we'll be using these as benchmarks to help us estimate those non-perfect squares. Okay, for example, if I ask you for the root of 95, right? 95 is not a perfect square, but what two integers, what two numbers do you know the root of 95 has to be between? 81 and 100, which means it's got to be between the two integers of 9 and 10, right? That's how we'll be using these. And we'll go through examples, we'll show you the work, everything like that. But while people finish writing this down, are we all good? Ready to move on? Okay. You do need to show your work for this assignment because obviously you can just put this into a calculator and write down the value. So you must have work shown to get credit. You can use your calculator to check your answer. That's great, but you must show your work to get credit for the homework. So let's start with root of 95. Okay. Landon said that root 95 is not a perfect square, but it's between the root of 81 and the root of 100, right? You can see root 81, root 100 up in the chart. 95 is between them. So we're going to put root 81 on the left, root 100 on the right. And then what integer value, what number is the root of 81 equal to? 9. And root of 100 is equal to 10. Therefore, the root of 95 has to be somewhere between 9 and 10. Right?
Yeah.
If it's greater than root 81, less than root 100, it's got to be somewhere between there. Okay? Now, we can't just put 9.5. We're going to mark 9.5, but that's not our answer because 95 is not halfway between 81 and 100. Is the root of 95 going to be closer to 9? Is it on this side of 9.5? Or is it going to be closer to 10? Is it on that side of 9.5? It's closer to 10. And how do you know that?
Because 95 is closer to 100.
Exactly. 95 is closer to 100 than it is to 81, which means it'll be closer to 10 than it is to 9. And because this is just an estimation, I mean, you could put 9.6 as an answer. You could put 9.7. You could put 9.8. You could put 9.9. In actuality, it's probably somewhere in the 9.7, 9.8 range. But because it's just an estimation, as long as you're on the correct side of which half it's on, what it's closer to, I'm okay with that. I would not accept 9.5 because that's you telling me 95 is halfway between 81 and 100, which it isn't. Okay? I certainly wouldn't accept anything less than 9.5 because it's clearly not closer to 9 than it is to 10. But any of those four answers will be just fine. Okay? Really?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Wow. Okay. All right. Peyton.
You think it's possible?
Peyton, give me a number between, let's go 50 and 220.
50, 220. Let's go 65.
65. Estimate the square root of 65. We're going to start by looking at those perfect squares up in the chart up above and figure out what two numbers does 65 come between? What two perfect squares is 65 between? And we see root 64. That's less than root 65. And we see the root of 81, which is greater than root 65. Right? Root 64 is equal to 8. Root 81 is equal to 9. So we know that the root of 65 has to be between 8 and 9. The final question, what are you looking for?
Why is this taped down?
Oh, I'm not allowed to open it for reasons that we can't talk about. You,
My pencil just broke, so can I like?
I'm really not comfortable
Can I just like?
breaking the rules of my order.
Can I just phone someone else?
Let's see, Mrs. Thomas, you can say hi to her.
My pencil's broken too.
You may not go. Yes.
Oh, the answer is 8.1 through 8.2.
Okay. So use a calculator for that, right?
No, I didn't use a calculator.
Oh, you're estimating out to 5 digits?
I just did it. Jeez. That's not a calculator. I'm done.
Well, how did you come up with 8 point, what was it?
Everything you did on that side.
8.1?
8.1, 8.2.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were listing like one giant decimal that you like got it that accurately down to.
Oh.
I understand. Okay. Yes. Sorry. So we know it's between 8 and 9. 65 is just barely past 64. So we know that on our kind of our number scale, it's going to be closer to 8 than it is to 9. And Nolan listed off 4 potential answers. It could be 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, 8.4. I mean, really, the only answer you should put down here is 8.1 because it's only one greater than 64. It's not going to be 8.4. But in the spirit of Christmas, I will accept anything, any of those 4 answers there. Okay? Josie, you have a question? Okay. Anyone have a question? I mean, the rest of it is pretty much that. Just continually practicing that. You've got 4 to do here, 8 to do here. Do you think the negative sign affects it in any way?
No. Like, yeah, because when I do like -3.
Yeah, you can't just ignore it, but it doesn't really change the process. Let's do this one here. Negative root 215. I'm going to ignore the sign. I just said you can't ignore it, but I'm going to for right now. What 2 roots does 215 come between here? What 2 whole numbers? I'm going to count those down. Tristan.
196 and 225.
Excellent. So the root of 215 is between the root of 196 and the root of 225. Root 196 is equal to what integer? 14. Root 225 is equal to 15. Which tells us this root, its decimal, is somewhere between 14 and 15. And now we can figure out where. Is it going to be closer to 14 or closer to 15? Let's put our 14.5 in here. Closer to 14 or closer to 15?
15.
Why? You're right, but why? Well, how far away is 215 from 196? Uh, 19. Okay. How far away is 215 from 225?
10.
Only 10, right? It is closer to 225 than it is to 196, which means it's going to be closer to 15 than it is to 14. Right? That's how you can tell. That's what those arrows are. What's it closer to? So 14.6, 14.7, 14.8, 14.9, all acceptable answers. Since it was originally negative, now we're going to not ignore that sign anymore. Okay? And negative 14.6, negative 14.7, negative 14.8, or negative 14.9 would all be acceptable answers. Okay? So, negatives, don't really worry about them. They don't change anything. Just make sure your final answer is negative. That's basically it. Okay. What? You don't understand?
No, don't erase it.
Oh, okay.
best one of those.
Which one?
Just or I recommend like the longer. Nice.
I don't like Mr. Schultz.
Oh,
That's good.
oh, there's also
Mr.
like
Schultz.
another one. Like
Should I have Halloween?
Halloween ones. Let's see, if I add one to this, I'd take one off, and I just don't know which one I would take off. Because they're all so good.
What's the first?
Zoe, good? Okay. So your homework are these 8 here, and then you have 4 on the next page, and that's where I want you to stop. Okay? This has got a lot of information in it, and we'll cover the rest of it tomorrow. So your homework for tomorrow are those first 12. You must show your work. William, what must you do?
Show your work.
Aiden, what must you do?
show your work.
Zoe, what must you do? Anthony, what must you do? Yeah. Penelope,
Are we still allowed to use a calculator?
you can use a calculator to check your answer, okay? But you cannot use it on the test, so I highly recommend that you only use it to check and understand this method, okay? So do not go on to the second Mr. Epic Pencil on the second page. Don't go on to the word problems. We'll do those tomorrow. You have 15 minutes to work. So after tomorrow's homework check, if we all have it done, we can do the number game. Mr. Link is here to help you until noon. I'm here to help you until noon. Please show your work. Any other questions, comments, concerns, complaints, compliments, congratulations, criticisms? Tristan.
What does that green button do?
The first one?
Yeah.
Why don't you ask me to go get a drink of water?
Get a drink of water.
No. Ask me if you can go get a drink of
I'm
water.
gonna drink of water.
That's good.
Done.
I like that one.
Done.
Okay. All right. Remember the outro?
No.
Don't
forget
forget
to like it.
don't
You didn't.
forget to
You
like
didn't record.
I'm recording.
I will always remember it.
That is how you math.
Don't
Don't
forget to
forget to like
like
and
and subscribe.